Thank you very much for attending this evening's Sacred Smelling. It's a very special and personal event for me. I don't often get to do this, but before we begin, I would like to really thank, tonight we have just such a wonderful and gorgeous international group of guests. I'd like to thank everybody from Australia, of course, for listening in, from the US, from the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Japan, guests from Hungary, Canada, Hong Kong, Germany, Ireland, Bulgaria, Israel and Italy, Brazil, Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, Mexico, Netherlands, and Spain. Thank you wherever you are in the world, and to everybody in Australia. Now, for those of you that will not be watching this live because of the time differences, I do hope that you will enjoy this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for attending. Now, in Australia, it is very customary at any gathering, whether it be online or in person, to do an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the country of Australia. We pay respect to the Aboriginal culture and to elders past, present and future. I've always felt a very strong, deep connection with this acknowledgement, as it's an acknowledgement and respect also for the deep spiritual connection that Aboriginal people have long had with country. Out of respect, when we launched out of respect, I thought it was going to be a good idea to launch these products in Japan before we launched them in Australia. However, can you imagine how I felt? I really felt this imposter syndrome. Because here I was, a Westerner, here I was, the owner of an Australian aromatherapy company, launching two very special products that embody the heart and soul of Japan. And at my first event that I did, live event in Japan, I went, oh, this feels like really, how will I do? How will I start? And I straight away, it came to me, I'm going to do an acknowledgement of country in Japan. And in doing this, I acknowledge the rich spiritual culture of Japan. And I also express my heartfelt acknowledgement and sincerely appreciated and acknowledge everybody in Japan that had helped me on this particular project. I must admit that I also have to acknowledge one very special person and team, and that's our Perfect Potion team in Japan, and of course my business partner Kiyo-san in Japan, because without her, I would not be here tonight speaking about these beautiful products that I'm about to talk about. Kiyo-san has helped to make so many special connections with people in Japan who have helped us on this journey to create these products. Unfortunately, I was hoping that I would be able to get Kiyo-san to join us live tonight, but unfortunately, due to some commitments that she has that just suddenly turned up, she was not able to make it, but we were able to do a short recording and a message from Kiyo-san. I would like to, before I start the presentation, introduce you to Kiyo-san and share the short video that we did. It is an absolute honor and a privilege for me and a blessing for me that I met Kiyo-san. She has been very much the driver of the success of Perfect Potion in Japan. And without her, Perfect Potion would not be where it is in Japan today. Kiyo-san, I really appreciate the work that you have done, and I'm so honored that we have been able to be involved in this project to make the Koyasan, beautiful Koyasan Sacred Mountain Mist and the beautiful Mamori Pulse Point. I would just like to ask you, what is it that you appreciate about these products, and why are they so special? Yes.
Yeah. Can I say about the Koyasan Mist first?
Of course.
Yeah, because the Koyasan is a very, very special place for Japanese people. Even somebody doesn't have a religion. I don't have religion, but I very appreciate to be in Koya Mountain because I can feel very calm and I can feel what like a spiritual quiet and I
Mm,
can feel I'm in the part of the nature. So these feelings that I can feel in Koya Mountain is I can't feel in my daily life. So I just appreciate everything that I can feel out
mm,
there.
yeah. That's thank you so much. Now,
Yeah.
as you know, so I will be in my presentation tonight talking a little bit about the history of Koyasan and why it is very special. Now, I will be talking about Koyamaki essential oil. Tell me from your, because were you tell me a little bit about your experience of Koyamaki and what's special about Koyamaki?
Koyamaki. Koyamaki is very special. I have never heard the Koyamaki essential oils in my life. Yeah, because Koyamaki, you will talk about more detail about the Koya Mountain and their, how can I say, ritual. But Koyamaki is more for like a give, how can I say, give to the Buddhist or no, Buddha or give to the cemetery,
Yes,
not like use for myself.
yes, mm,
So it's just special
yes.
because I
Thank
don't use koyamaki. I don't have koyamaki in my life.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but
Yeah.
now you do have a little bit of
Yes.
Koyamaki in your life.
I know. It's amazing
Mm,
from point of
yes,
view. This
yeah.
point of view. Yeah. It's amazing.
Now, I remember when you took me in Kyoto
Mm.
to when we met Hiroshi-san, and
Yeah.
he was distilling Kuramoji essential oil.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
I told you straight away, oh my God, this
Yep.
is like Mamori.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you personally think of the Mamori pulse point and
Okay.
also what it means to everyone in
Okay.
Japan.
The Kuromoji is also not so familiar or popular aroma in Japan, even for Japanese people. But when I smelled Kuromoji, I felt like I kind of knew that I could feel like my grandma or my mom hugged me. I felt
Mm.
very
Protected
relieved. Yes,
and protected, yes.
protected. Yeah. I was so surprised. Even that was my first time to smell kuromoji. So when you said that kuromoji is mamori, yes, I totally agree that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now,
Yeah.
sorry for being cheeky about this one.
Yeah.
Several customers in Japan,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
did the right thing and launched the products in Japan before launching them in Australia.
Yes.
Several customers said to me after the presentation, Sam,
Yes.
you are more Japanese than some of my friends. Do,
Agree.
were they justified in saying that?
I agreed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiyo. I'm sorry
Yes.
that you can't be here for the entire
Yeah.
presentation
Sorry.
live, but I
Yeah.
appreciate the time that you have made. And once again, I'm so grateful that you have played such an important role in helping Perfect Potion create these blends. It's such an honor to be working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well. Thank you so much.
Somebody else that I'd like to thank, and that is Shohei-san. And I know that Shohei-san is probably watching now. He is our marketing manager in Japan. And most of the beautiful photos that you see in the presentation were the magic of short hair, and he's taken some of these beautiful photos. There's some that are so-so, they're ones that I took, but all these photos that you will see in the presentation are photos that we have taken. I've had the privilege of being able to visit Koyasan Mountain now about 3 times, and each time I feel a special magic and deep connection with the place. Decided, of course, that we were going to call this launch a sacred spelling, because the 2 products in many ways are quite sacred. Koyasan in particular. Now, Koya refers to the mountain range, but the honorific term that is used in Japan is San, which is really saying Koya Mountain. I will tend to, in my discussion, just simply refer to it as Koyasan rather than Koya Mountain. And of course, the 2 products that we are talking about is the Koyasan Sacred Mountain Root Mist, which we just launched, and of course, the Mamori Pulse Point. Now, it's also going to be a little bit of an aromatherapy lesson as well. It's not, the focus isn't so much just on the aromatherapy, but I will also give you some insight into how and why I created the blends that I did. And sometimes the magic in the blend is in the simplicity of the blend, especially when we talk about the Koyasan, because I wanted to, in creating these blends, I wanted to honor the 2 essential oils that are very special in these particular blends. Now, Koyasan refers to, and I will show you on a map, it's a very sacred site, and it's part of what is referred to as the Key Peninsula, and the whole area is considered to be inhabited by gods. And throughout the peninsula, there are lots of pilgrimage routes that you can do, and some of these can take 5 days, and during these pilgrimage walks, you actually will end up doing what is referred to like as a temple stay. If you ever get to go to Japan, please, I hope you can spend the time in this very special part of Japan. It is located, here's a little map for those of you that may not be familiar with Japan or where it is located. I call it a lovely little triangle. Every time that I visit Japan, our main office is in Kyoto, and Kyoto itself is a very, very special city. But there's Kyoto, Osaka, and Kobe. They're very close to each other. And you can see it's near Nara. Koyasan is near Nara, and Nara itself is very, very special. So there's so much to do to immerse yourself into more what I refer to as the spiritual culture of Japan. Now, in 2004, Koyasan was registered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site as part of the sacred sites, and because of the temples and because of all the pilgrimage routes in the mountain ranges surrounding Koyasan. I told this very interesting story, and I'm not too sure how it actually was going to go down. And in the launch that I did in Japan, I've been reading a little bit about the history of Koyasan, for example, that the actual town, there is a town at Koyasan as well. It's very much what we would refer to as a temple town. Now, there was this guy, I won't call him dude, there was this guy in the 16th century, Nobunaga-san was a very prominent and important figure within Japanese history. He played a very important role in the unification of Japan, but there were some of his vassals that had betrayed him. And as a result, they decided to seek refuge in Koyasan. Now, Nobunaga-san, he sent 2 of his samurai to Koyasan, and he demanded to the priests that they must hand over these 2 samurai, these vassals. But of course, the priests refused, because part of their Buddhist teaching, it was against their Buddhist teaching, and because they knew that if they handed these two individuals back that were seeking refuge in Koyasan, they would be beheaded. So the monks told them, piss off, leave. So the following month, Nobunaga-san sent 32 soldiers to Koyasan, and he just said, go through the place and search for these two fugitives. They were getting upset because they couldn't find them because they were hidden. And from what I remember, the temple that I stayed at, they had this big scroll, and the scroll I now understand, because at the time I didn't understand. The scroll was actually a thank you for protecting us. And these two, I understand that they were samurai, then became supporters of Koyasan for many generations to follow. Anyway, the 32 soldiers that were sent to Koyasan got upset because they couldn't find the two fugitives. So they started to destroy the temple. The monks weren't that happy with this, so they actually killed the 32 soldiers. When Nobunaga found out about this, he was furious, and he sent an army of 137,000 soldiers to destroy Koyasan, just to raze it to the ground. The siege, I think, actually lasted not for several months, but for more than a year. And I think Koyasan was only able to mobilize a small army of 36,000 men, many of them farmers, many of them priests as well. But they had the advantage of the high ground. Now, obviously, not everybody was happy with what was going on. And one of his generals actually was involved in a coup, which saw Nobunaga die. He died. And as a result of this, the siege on Koyasan ended. They backed off. Now, I jokingly said at one of the presentations, I actually wonder if Nobunaga knew that in the 20th century that Koyasan would one day become a UNESCO World Heritage Site, would he still have planned to destroy Koyasan? Now, in my presentation in Kyoto, there was a priest, and when he heard me say this, I could see the smile on his face because he appreciated what I was saying, because there's no doubt that Koyasan may have actually been destroyed if the siege had continued to go on. So it's just a little bit of a background history to Koyasan. Anyway, it is definitely considered a very sacred area nowadays. Now, this is the photo that I just could not help taking myself, and it's actually a photo of a poster in a cafe. But it basically tells the story. And it so simply puts it, the spiritual destination of your journey in Japan starts here. Is there anybody, please, we're on chat, so if you get a chance, please introduce yourself. Is there anybody listening in tonight that has actually been to Koyasan? And if you haven't been to Japan, I hope that you do make it. Do make Japan one, put it in your travel bucket wish list, and definitely I hope that you can visit Koyasan. It is, I think Shohei helped me to put this little phrase together, and it's gorgeous. As he said, the whole of Koyasan is considered sacred. Not just the temple, the forest surrounding the temple, the skies over the temple. The place is very magical, it's sublime, and it has such a soothing atmosphere. So I'm just taking some little photos of Koyasan just to get you into the mood and feeling of what was behind my thinking in creating these blends. This is the main gate, which Nobunaga's soldiers never made it through, into the town of Koyasan. Koyasan is very, very special. It is the center. It's one of the most important centers for Buddhist studies and practice located in the Wakayama prefecture. And it was actually founded in 1816 by a very important Buddhist monk, Kobodashi Kukai. And he founded it as the center of Shingon Buddhism, which is also referred to as esoteric Buddhism. Esoteric Buddhism has its origins in the original Buddhism. So there are, of course, many different sects of Buddhism. So this is one of the original, based on the original doctrines of Buddhism from India. So it is very, very old Buddhism. To this day, it is believed that Kobodashi spirit, or no, his presence can still be felt, and he still lives in the mountains because he achieved enlightenment. And so he actually, every day of the year, when you go to Koyasan, but make sure you're there by 9:30 in the morning, because this offering is done at 9:30 in the morning. So whether it is raining, snowing, every day of the year, an offering is made to Kobodashi Kukai, because he is still believed to be alive in the forest and in the area of Koyasan. So some of these photos, this time last week, well, I had just returned from Japan. So I had, it was only early in the week that I was here, just over a week ago. Now, I hope that if you do get a chance to visit Koyasan and visit, that you get to stay, that you just don't do the typical tourist day trip thing, and that you do get to experience what is referred to the Shukobo, the temple stay. We stay, there are over 52 temples. So this information was correct as of last week. There are 52 temples in Koyasan that offer the actual temple stays, what is referred to as the pilgrimage lodgings. Some of the, we have only been to the Renjejo-in temple, which is the temple of the lotus flower meditation. And when you do the temple stay, you can also participate in the afternoon meditations and in the early morning recitals of the sutra, so you can participate and listen in, which is just such a very special experience. Now, this photo was taken in spring, late summer last year when I was there. I just couldn't help it when I knew that the temple was the temple of the lotus flower meditation. I saw this lotus in blossom and I just said, oh my God, that's gorgeous. Now, of course, I was there again early in February. And of course, there was like almost half a meter of snow in the area in some places. But irrespective, whether it is spring, summer, winter, the temple is so serene and so beautiful and so calm. And of course, this time last week, I was there. You will see on the main entrance to the temple, in the pebble garden, the text that has been raked into the stones is actually in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is still used. Now, one of the most special things you will get to experience if you do the temple stay is you will get to enjoy shojin ryori, which is the vegetarian temple food, which is amazing. I, without a doubt, would say that the best meal that I ever had, and I am not joking, was at this temple. The food is prepared in 5 different ways, and they also include the 5 different flavors. So it's very much based on the 5 elements. So the 5 different ways of preparing food and the 5 different flavors. It was amazing. You look at it and you go, where do you start? And everybody just said, you start where your eyes take you to, but do eat your food quite mindfully. It was such an honor and a privilege to meet the head priest of Renjejo-in temple. So we had a wonderful discussion and enjoyed an amazing cup of sencha that was the best sencha that I had ever experienced. Now, the highlight, of course, of this evening's presentation, the Koyasan Sacred Mist, contains a very, very special essential oil, and it comes from Koyamaki pine. It's actually not really a pine, but the common name is referred to as umbrella pine. It's also referred to as the sacred pine tree. The actual species, it is the only member of the particular Scitopitaeus family, which dates back more than 230 million years. So this makes it a very, very ancient tree. So just remember that it's the only species within this particular plant family. So it is very, very sacred pine tree, and it is found only nowadays in the wild, that is, in this particular region of Japan and also in Korea in Jeju Island. So that's the only place that it can be found. Now, of course, it is now growing in botanical gardens all around the world, and I don't know if you can buy it at plant nurseries. It is a very slow growing tree. Now, I must acknowledge also the forest keepers and the forest management team that look after the forest of the around the temples. And Nishida-san was just explaining to us how slow growing Koyamaki is, and where his hand is saying that's how much it grows in 1 year. Now, the oil only comes from the pine, from the actual leaf itself. So the tree is not cut down. Now, of course, the tree is, because this is a sacred area, so let me get this straight, the leaves are not harvested from the trees that grow wild. They do have special little plant, special farm, that there are farmers that are dedicated to growing the Koyamaki, and I'll explain very soon where Koyamaki is traditionally used, but it can be found throughout the forest. Most of the forests in Japan will have your classic hinoki and sugi tree, but there are many other species that can be found, but hinoki and sugi are the most prominent. But in this area, you will also see the Koyamaki tree. Now, of course, some of these trees are not hundreds of years old. They can be over 1,000 years old. Now, of course, it's a very important place to do forest bathing, but you can only do that with a guide in this particular area in Koyasan region. So it was just so, irrespective of the type of weather that we're experiencing, whether it's raining, whether it is snowing, it is just such an incredible experience. And I have done in the past presentations on Shinrin-yoku. I just want to always remind people, it's not about like physical activity in the forest. The closest thing that I can think of in describing forest bathing is just think of it as a mindfulness exercise in nature, and especially within the forest. So here we are, we were like walking around the forest on some of the forest trails, just enjoying that time in nature. And as Kiyo-san said in the little video that I hope you get to watch, for her, it's very special because we lead such busy lives, spending them in the cities usually. So going to the temple, it's not surprising that a lot of the temples are located in the countryside, are surrounded by forests, because they are the forest is considered a very sacred space. It's not just the temple that's considered to be the sacred space. Now, this particular sugi tree, I was in such awe of it, and I felt this deep sense of reverence. I think we sat under this tree for, it seemed like hours, but it's over 500 years old, and it is one of what they refer to as a marker at the beginning of one of the trails that connects one temple to another temple. Now, it's not surprising, therefore, that Kobodashi Kukai chose Koyamaki. Thank you very much, Nick. Yes, the food is definitely a vegan food. It was amazing. Yeah. Now, Kobodashi Kukai decided that Koyamaki should be considered one of the sacred trees in Koyasan. And as a result, he decided that we should use the Koyamaki instead of flowers as an offering to the Buddha and as an offering to our ancestors. Now, by the way, this Koyamaki tree, and you can tell I took that photo, but this tree was probably over 1,000 years old, simply by looking at the size of it. Now, of course, Kukai said that, yes, we should use Koyamaki as an offering instead of the flowers when at special memorial services. Now, nowadays, when you turn up in Koyasan, if you are making an offering to your ancestors or to Buddha, you would actually buy a bunch of the Koyamaki, these Koyamaki twig stems, and you would then make the offering. So you will see them throughout the temple complex, placed in front of the entrance of the temples or in front of the shrines of ancestors and so on. So these is the Koyamaki now that you're seeing as an offering that is made. Now, a little bit about Koyamaki. The essential oil from the Koyamaki is, and you know what the silly thing is, I never kept. We used all the oil up because we could only receive such a small quantity of the oil. And I had to decide, and I spoke with Kiyo about this and our team in Japan, what we should do, because the amount of oil that we could receive was such a small quantity that we felt the best way that we could allow as many people as possible to share this beautiful aroma of the Koyamaki leaf was to make a mist. And that decision was made because the several times that we've been up there, it's always been so misty. And that's what makes the place so magical as well. But it's unlike any other pine oil or spruce oil. It's got almost this deep green, rich aroma to it as well. And a rich coniferous scent. So it is actually quite a beautiful essential oil. It is very uncommon to find the essential oil. You can probably, because it's very hard to distill and it has such a very low yield. The yield is less than 0.1%. So that's per weight. So you can imagine you don't get much essential oil when it's only like 0.1% of the leaf matter of the essential oil. Now, as I told you, we could only get 2 kilos of the Koyamaki oil. So I thought, let's make this beautiful mist. I had actually originally thought of just using the Koyamaki leaf. But then I decided I wanted to respect and honor the entire aromas of the forest, but I wanted to keep the blend simple. So we decided that we should make a blend, and it carefully chose which essential oils to use on it. Now, I must stop to mention and express my sincere gratitude to everybody in Japan and Kiyo-san and the discussions we had with the people in Koyasan, the relevant people in Koyasan, for giving us the permission to use the word Koyasan. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful that we were able to use the term Koyasan, because it is very much it's a very sacred space, and I did not want to do any disrespect by not getting the right permission to use the word Koyasan. Now, here I am. This actual little branch here probably ended up in the essential oil that went into this particular mist that we actually made this year. So this was taken late last year. And I was just here enjoying the aroma of the beautiful fresh Koyamaki leaf that had just been harvested. And as I said, the oil content is very low, and it's not common in Japan. So therefore, compared to other conifer essential oils, it's actually quite expensive oil to use. Now, what I decided to do is I decided to follow the classic aromatherapy perfumery blending, meaning I decided to use a top note, a middle note, and the base note. The other term I like using for the middle note is the heart. And Koyamaki, of course, is the heart of this blend. But of course, it needed a little bit of a base note. And the base note was in the form of the hinoki wood, which also is growing in the Koyasan Mountains. And I love hinoki wood because it has that gentle woody scent, which is not overpowering like some other woody notes. And of course, I just wanted to add a little bit of freshness to this blend, just to give it a bit of a lift. But I didn't want to overpower the blend because I didn't want to make it like a sickly sweet, citrusy, happy blend. It really had to maintain, it makes you feel happy if you've been there. And I'll tell another story very soon. But I just wanted just a tiny amount of yuzu, just to add that little bit of freshness and allow this blend to shine. And so that is the simplicity of this gorgeous blend, which we created. Yuzu as the top note, Koyamaki as the heart, and the hinoki wood as the delicate, beautiful, soft, woody base note. Now, I was asked, of course, creating this is like, it's an aromatherapy product. So typically when you create an aromatherapy product, you need to be able to list the features and the benefits of the product. Now, I was stuck for words in trying to come up with the features and benefits. And then when I was discussing this with Carolyn, my partner, and with my team, I was going, what are the features and benefits? I'd never actually thought of what are the features and benefits. I said, it just embodies the essence of Koyasan. That is what the features and the benefits are. Now, of course, if you are from Japan, more than likely you will understand this meaning. So I said, well, it's kind of a sacred scent. So I kind of said, okay, well, how will it make you feel? Okay, and I suppose, and I don't want to say this is the type of blend that you would enjoy when you are like forest bathing or anything. It's more special than that. So you will experience that same feeling that I had in Japan. One of our customers in Japan, when she smelt it, said to us, Sal-san, this blend has the energy of Kukai. That, I was shocked by that comment and by that response. And that's what I think maybe the features and benefits are. Some of you will feel refreshed and revitalized. Some of you might feel a deep sense of calm and connection with nature, perhaps. Here I was, Debbie won't show herself, but without Debbie, I wouldn't be able to do this. She goes, oh, this scent reminds me of home. And I know. I said, aren't you from Rockhampton? And I know Rockhampton, but what I think Debbie was picking up on was this deep connection with country and like with the trees and with nature as well. So I do hope that when you use Koyasan, when you get to use the Koyasan Sacred Mountain Mist, that you will feel that energy of Koyasan. Now, I do have, and I'm just making this up as I go, but we will actually put some images up as well of the link and use them as a screensaver, some of these beautiful mountain images. And this is what I want you to do. I created this like little special a practice. I want you to spend some time, and I did this last night in our shop in Brisbane. And I just asked everybody to look at that image for a moment and transport themselves, feel as if they were there. Then I had one team member just go around, just over the heads, closing your eyes and just misting this. And just deeply inhaling the aroma of the Koyasan Sacred Mountain Mist. Nobody wanted to open their eyes. And I said, we have to move on with the presentation. I gave everybody a few minutes, like it felt like a few minutes, but everybody was just so into the moment after having had that, that visual contact. And indeed, when you look at the a lot of research has been done into forest bathing. It is the visual aspect. It is one of the main sensory, and it is the actual aroma aspect of the forest bathing experience that elicits all those benefits on our well-being and health. So it is it's very special, and I do hope that you will enjoy the Koyasan Sacred Mountain Mist. It is very limited edition. We are also very honoured that it will be sold also in Koyasan. So we're very honoured for being able to make that connection, because I think that's where it needs to be, so that when pilgrims and visitors go to Koyasan, they can take a little bit of Koyasan back with them. Now, we will have a little intermission before I talk about our next beautiful product. I will be doing in 2 weeks now a little present, one of my mini masterclasses, and it will be on rare Japanese essential oils. One of the Japanese essential oils that I will be talking about will be yakusugi. It is a very special oil. Now, I will tell you a little bit of a background story here. Some of you would have attended the launch that I did. It was when I launched volume 3 of the complete guide to aromatherapy, the subtle and the psyche, that we also had a special launch on some very special sacred oils, and yakusugi was among them. Now, our distiller in Japan was told me, because this is very special, I will talk more about it in the webinar in 2 weeks. But the oil from yakusugi comes from the sugi tree, but it comes from trees. It cannot be called yakusugi unless the trees are over 1,000 years old. So think about that. Now, before you freak out, because when I first heard this from Higashi-san, I went, my God, what? You cut down 1,000-year-old plus trees? And he said, no, Sal-san, of course not. We did not cut down any trees at all. Now, Yakushima is located totally in a different, it's right at the tip of Kyushu Island. Now, if you've ever been to Japan, you'll know that in late summer in particular, it can be notorious for typhoons. And those typhoons seem to go all the way up the west coast of Japan, wreaking havoc. And of course, this little Yakushima Island often is the brunt of a lot of these devastating typhoons. Now, some of these trees would be indestructible, but there is damage to the trees sometimes, and they are damaged. So the oil that was extracted from yakusugi came from what we call deadwood, or trees that had fallen down. Now, some of the trees on the island are over 7,000 years old. Not surprising, the whole area, the whole forest where these yakusugi can be found are also declared a UNESCO World Heritage Protected Area. So once again, people cannot just go into the forest on their own, they need a guide. So this is an example of some wood that would have been fallen down. It grows in what is very subtropical area. The oil is quite different to other wood oils. It has a high percentage of resin, and that would make it impervious to a lot of damage. And that's what gives it its quite a unique aroma. So it is very strictly controlled, and it's probably likely, because for the last 3 years I was told that it's been very difficult to collect the wood from the forest. So it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to see oil from this wood again for some time. Now, it has such an incredible aroma, which is not easy to describe. It's earthy, it's mossy, it's woody and resiny. But one thing you'll know, it is gorgeous. I almost don't like blending it with other oils. I like to, it's got that complexity that you could use it on its own. Now, I just thought, before we move on, I found this quote. And it's not a Japanese haiku. It's not written by a Japanese person. It's actually written by Robert Louis Stevenson. But I think it's beautiful. I think he summarizes perfectly that connection that we have always had with forest. And he says it's not so much for its beauty, but the forests make a claim on our hearts as much as that subtle something. Isn't that amazing? So he's picking up on some energy, the quality of the air that emanates from old trees. He's talking about the essential oils and the scent coming from the trees. They're breathing out, and he can inhale, he can smell this air. And what effect does it have? It's so wonderfully changed. It wonderfully changes and renews a weary spirit. I think that's why we spend that time in the forest. And of course, when we can't spend time in the forest, we'll often surround ourselves with the sense of the forest. Now, as I said, please, there are some very,
they can still.
sorry. Yeah. There are some very special essential oils that we will also, it's not just the two beautiful products, Koyasan and Mamori, that we are launching tonight. There are also some Japanese essential oils. So please go to the section on our website where you'll find a list of the Japanese essential oils that are available. Now, I would like to talk now about the next product, because this next product is also very, very special, and it is called Mamori. Oh, can I see my presentation?
Hang on.
Where's my,
We lost your presentation.
where's my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, hello, sorry.
I'll get rid of that.
Sorry.
Share it again.
The screen. Oh,
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
make sure that everyone can.
Sorry. Doing something weird.
Do I need to flick through? While Debbie's getting my screen back, I'm just going to smell some Mamori, because I need that protection from a little bit of stress that I'm starting to feel. Mamori is based on a gorgeous essential oil called Huramoji, which is also quite rare and quite difficult to find.
Can I open it again? And it got really
Go right now to where the Mamori are and start it there. Start it right there. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you so sorry about that. Now, if you have been to Japan, I have no doubt that you would have visited the temples. Now, when you visit the temples and the shrines, you will often see at the entrance the little stalls where they're selling what is referred to as small little amulets called Mamori. These little amulets are there to provide protection. So you buy them and you keep them with you. You carry them with you. You carry them in your bag, and they're there to ward off misfortune, to provide protection, to provide you with luck, to provide you with good health, to provide your family, to care for your family, whatever. So there are Mamori for all occasions. Now, it's very special. The word Mamori actually means protection, and it was. And before I go on, let me tell you the story of how I chose Mamori and why I chose Mamori as the once, especially when I made the connection with this Kurumoji essential oil. And in order to do that, I must tell you about this project that I've been working on in the background. I'm working on a book which I'm going to call the Kotodama of Scent. Now, when I was in Japan, I asked my Japanese friends, so what do you understand by the meaning of Kotodama? And some people said, oh, it's the power of the word, or often the spirit of the word, or it's like the deep meaning of the word. But it's like when you say a word, when you speak, that word has power. So be very mindful about what you say. So the Kotodama the word Kotodama often simply refers to the spirit or the soul of the word. And this is what I just find quite magical and have such a deep reverence for, not just the Japanese culture, but even for the language, because it tends to embody even sacredness within the words themselves. Now, when I smelled Kurumoji oil for the first time, I don't know why, but the first word that came to mind was Mamori. I remember having a chat with Kiyo. Oh, what do you think of? Because she had not smelled Kurumoji before. And she went, I see what you mean, Salsa. It actually, Mamori is the perfect word to describe the feeling you get when you smell Kurumoji. Now, Kurumoji comes from a small tree, small shrub, which is indigenous to Japan and can be found throughout other parts of China. Now, it's not necessarily, from what I understand, it's not used in kampo medicine, but the leaves are commonly used to make a very beautiful, fragrant tea. And it's not surprising because the tea tastes amazing. So when we actually did our little walk through the forest when I was in Koyasan, the forest management team, they pointed out, here is the Kurumoji tree, and it can often be found growing because it's a small shrub. It likes the shaded area of the larger trees. It can often be found growing under the sugi trees. So for lunch, we stopped for lunch, and they made a beautiful tea from the Kurumoji leaf, and it did taste divine. And of course, the water we used had come from the little mountain stream flowing through the forest. Now, we could only get hold of 300 grams of Kurumoji essential oil, but it smelled like, the first time I smelled it, I said, oh my God, this smells like heaven. It has such a delicate, subtle floral note. Now, we do have a very small quantity of the Kurumoji essential oil available as well. Now, when you look at the chemical analysis of the oil, it's not surprising that it has that really delicate floral note. Now, it is one of the components. It's not necessarily the main component, but that aroma is due to the linalool. And the linalool is found in the leaves and in the twigs of the branch. So you don't have to cut down the whole tree. It is often referred to as Japanese rosewood. So it is the linalool. So here are some branches that had been cut down, and we mulched it. It got mulched down into small pieces. So then that it could be then put, and there it is all mulched up. And it is Hiroshi-san, who is the distiller of this particular, the Kurumoji essential oil. I call him a master distiller, because he really has perfected the really classical, traditional way of distilling essential oils. And he focuses on just those unique oils that can be found around the area that he grows. Now, he has to get permission from the local community in order to harvest the Kurumoji leaves and the twigs, because it is wild crafted. It is wild harvested. It is not from plantation trees at all. And look, and that's almost a separate presentation that I would like to do, probably in one of my master classes, to talk about some of the challenges that the essential oil industry faces. Whether the essential oil should be wildcrafted, meaning comes from plants that are collected in the wild, or should it come from plants that have been cultivated? If it gets to a point where it becomes so commercially successful, just think about what's happened to sandalwood. There are so many plants that are now on the endangered species list. So we have to be ever so mindful of that. So it's more than likely that things like this are going to remain like in small quantities and small volumes because they are so precious. And indeed, Hiroshi-san does not produce what I would call commercial quantities of kurumoji, but the kurumoji that he does produce is of an exceptional quality. And as I feel, this is what true aromatherapy is about. It's about having a reverence, not just for the oil, but also for the fact that it's come from this forest and the fact that it is so precious. And I feel that in Japan, they honor and understand this. And so it's not like, oh, I need tons of this oil. It's so amazing. Let's make this like the next favorite, popular essential oil in aromatherapy. I love the fact that it's very much kept in a very low scale, non-commercial way. The smell, as I said, is amazing, and it's because it has this linalool content that is also found in essential oils like lavender. It's found in rosewood. And by the way, when I first smelled kurumoji, there was one thing that came to my mind. I felt lavender, not lavender, sorry. I felt, apart from lavender, I said, oh my God, Fregonia. So you'll now understand, because once again, we didn't have that much kurumoji, and I felt, how are we going, what type of product can we make with this beautiful essential oil? And that's when we decided we would make a Mamori blend, and we would use the Mamori blend in a pulse point. So it's in a little 5 ml rollerball bottle with jojoba. It's made at a 5% concentration. I had to be ever so careful which essential oils I was going to blend with the kurumoji, because I did want to honor the aroma of the kurumoji. I didn't want to overpower that. So what did I do? So of course, once again, I decided to create a blend with a top note, the heart note, and a base note. Now the heart, of course, is kurumoji, but to that heart, I also added a tiny amount of Fregonia and a tiny amount of lavender. And I felt this needs some tea tree. This blend provides protection. It is like your aromatic amulet. It's like your aromatic Mamori. And to the top note, now look at the oils that I have chosen. If you're familiar with aromatherapy, you'll know that the bergamot, the neroli, and the petitgrain, along with Fregonia, along with lavender, all contain amounts of linalool. So they work in synergy, so they don't overwhelm the scent of kurumoji. If I had used orange or lemon or something else, it would have simply overpowered the aroma of the kurumoji and would have been lost. But the bergamot, the neroli, and the petitgrain just simply give it a nice top note, but honor and respect the aroma of kurumoji. And of course, as the base note, this blend needed some sandalwood and some hinoki. So it just gives it that beautiful ability to stay on the skin longer with that subtle woody aromas. Now, the final result, I think is magical. And as I said, I really wanted to preserve that delicate aroma of kurumoji. Now, in describing the benefits of Mamori, I will describe its firstly its aroma. It's a subtle floral and woody scent. It's soothing and it's comforting. And what does it protect us? Because remember, the word Mamori refers to protect us. I think it protects us from stress. It keeps us calm whenever we feel anxious. It makes us feel happy when our spirits are down. Most of those essential oils, if you are familiar with chakras, also the lavender, the neroli, the bergamot, they all relate to the heart chakra. I feel that it also protects the heart. So whenever we feel overwhelmed and feel a sense of hopelessness or feel that we need some compassion, Mamori blend will come to the rescue and it will protect your heart and help you to flourish despite any challenges that you might be experiencing. Or it will give you that courage to do so. So I hope you will also get the opportunity to enjoy this beautiful Mamori pulse point as well. But I've actually come to the end of the presentation. Now, are there any questions that anybody would like to ask? Please, before we finish off the presentation, I do hope that you have really enjoyed this beautiful journey that I have taken through Japan and sharing with you the experiences that I have had in Japan. But I'm quite happy to take any questions regarding the presentation. Oh, and by the way, when we actually lost the slides for a while, I was going to tell you about the yakusugi and where it came from. I had actually forgotten when we did our first original presentation 3 years ago. And I felt really selfish about this. And I felt this sense of shame and guilt. I had actually kept 200 mils of yakusugi for myself, and it was in my private collection. And then I felt, what am I going to do with 200 mils? Now, I'd just been told by Koyasan that it's probably likely that we're not going to be able to see yakusugi again for some time. And I think I got an email from someone in the UK, Nick, who said, I've read about yakusugi and I want it. And then that made me feel even more guilty. And then I decided I'm going to release my private collection of yakusugi and share it with everybody, because it's the type of oil that really deserves for people to experience it. So I do hope you get to enjoy yakusugi as well. Or there is a question?
More comments.
Oh, more comments.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Look,
Someone wants to attend a workshop at the temple.
oh, we are actually, it was really lovely because when I was in Japan, I met this lovely Australian lady who's Japanese, is so fluent, makes me feel embarrassed because I've been visiting Japan for over 15 years. She's a yoga teacher, and we actually had this discussion, and we have been thinking about this for some time, about doing something special in Japan one day. So who knows? I'm sure that we might surprise you and organize something special in Japan one day. But yeah, even if I go in Japan, and I'm doing the presentation in Japan next time. But look, thank you so much. I hope if you have not been to Japan, it is a very safe and special place to visit and travel. And it's wonderful to see travelers coming back to Japan. And it was the first time I went to Koyasan, I was so shocked and surprised that there were so few tourists. And of course it has an impact, and travelers. But this last time that I was there, I was so surprised to see, and it was such a pleasant surprise to see it bustling again with lots of people. Do take the temple complexes there are quite big, so do take advantage of guides, because you get to learn a lot more about the history of the place rather than just looking at all these amazing wooden buildings and looking at all these incredible Buddhist Buddhist structures. It is a very special place, and I do believe that the oils that I've used in the Koyasan Sacred Mountain Mist and the Mamori, they actually have a little bit of heart and soul of Japan in them. Thank you so much for your time. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to email us, and I'll look forward to responding to you. Please take care and speak to you very soon. Bye.